All right, guys, welcome back to the Everything College Football Podcast. Today we're looking at SMU and Cincinnati. The 8-2 Mustangs traveled to Nippert Stadium to take on the Bearcats, who are 10-0, vying for a college football playoff spot. 11.5 is the spread in favor of the home team. Over/under set at 65, and will be contested at 3:30 on ESPN on Saturday. So let's get into it. Looking at the SMU offense, Sonny Dykes has done wonders with this unit. The air raid attack is really flourishing with Tanner Mordecai, the Oklahoma transfer. These guys are 6th in yards and points per game. Mordecai's been executing very well. 3,200 yards, 37 touchdowns to 10 picks. That's second most in college football touchdowns, that is. Probably the only other team that distributes as well as these guys do is Ohio State. They have 3 different guys with 40-plus receptions. Danny Gray, Rashee Rice, Reggie Robertson. He's probably their best playmaker. He's their 3rd leading receiver. These guys are incredibly deep at pass catcher. Grant Calcaterra, 6'5", 247. This guy's massive. He's got a big frame, good red zone threat. He also gets involved plenty. You're mainly going to see those 4 guys in the receiving game. They all get plenty of work. Some pretty respectable size, I think, for the SMU Mustangs receivers, 6'1", 195 plus. Everyone's taller or bigger than that. So they got some nice size. They got some good speed, too. So this is a very good SMU receiving core. This running game, it's not been great at times. They've been held under 100 yards 3 times this year. Trey Siggers, the North Texas transfer, he's been very good. Ulysses Bentley, he's a veteran, or not really a veteran. This is his 2nd year, but he was really good for them last year. The style of offense doesn't put their offensive line in many holes. The ball gets out quick. So on paper, you're not going to see a lot of sacks or tackles for loss allowed. But they have struggled the last 3 weeks. They're not going to be able to play. They have to play their best to win this game because Cincinnati is a very tough defensive front. And again, the Mustangs the last 3 weeks, they've really struggled to pass protect. It's been tough to run the ball. Overall, though, they have good balance. Not great. It's good, though. They really throw the ball a lot. High volume passing attack. They go up and down the field in a hurry, like what this SMU offense brings to the table, especially with Tanner Mordecai in center. They have a nice matchup here with the Bearcat. Looking at the Bearcat offense, Desmond Ridder, he developed so much as a passer this year, keeping his eyes downfield, throwing in between the hashes. Even on the outside of the numbers, he's been very good. I really like what Desmond Ridder's done as a passer. He's, not as reliant with his legs as he was, freshman year. But the last 3 weeks, he's really turned it up a notch. 10-plus carries the last 3 weeks. He's starting to get, 13 carries last week was a season high. I think it was 13. Either way, it was a season high in carries, which were run 4 outs. And 4, he's questionable. He's got 15 touchdowns this year, highly productive. He's questionable to play in this game with an ankle. We're just going to assume that, he's not going to play. If that's the case, Ritter's going to be leaned on a bit with his legs. He's very capable. Last year, he took a 90-yarder, I think, to the house. I think he had 4 rushing touchdowns on him last year, if I'm not mistaken. If not, it was 4 total. I don't know. I know he had a ball game last year on the Mustangs. Look at their weapons. They're very deep at receiver. Alec Pierce, Michael Young, downfield, Tyler Scott, Trey Tucker. He's pretty versatile. They don't give him enough touches, but he can do a lot for them in special teams. Every once in a while, they'll give him an end around. He can make plays vertically. I like what they have at pass catcher. Tight end Josh Wiley gets involved a good bit, especially in the red zone. Overall, this is a very good. They've been struggling on offense, but they're very good with talent. This is an offensive line that's very stiff as well. They run the ball well, even with Ford out. He's a very talented player, so it's not going to be the same. It's going to be more of a committee if he doesn't play. Ryan Montgomery, Charles McClellan, Ethan Wright. You're going to see all those 3 guys split carries. Ryan Montgomery had a couple big runs last week against USF. The offense this year, though, they've kind of struggled here down the stretch the last couple of weeks. Very favorable matchup against the Mustangs, but that's something to look out for. They've been struggling a good bit. They're plenty capable, though. 242 yards per game through the air. They get it done on the ground, too. They have balance. When they're playing their best ball, they can get it done. So 2 offenses that are really good, have not had their best games over the last couple of weeks, though. They haven't had complete games, I guess you could say. They've still done pretty good work, especially SMU, but these offenses really kind of been a little off the mark the last couple of weeks. That's something to watch for in this game. Look at the SMU defense. They've come a long way, especially defending the run. They completely stonewalled Memphis and Houston, held them both to under 80 yards. Granted, the Tigers' top running back was out. Still, was it 40 yards on 37 carries? It doesn't matter who your running back is. That's highly impressive for a defense of this stature. That's very good for them. I like the pass rush they have. Turner Coxey, 5 sacks, 3 forced fumbles this year coming off the edge at outside linebacker. DeVere Williston, Elijah Chapman. These guys have combined for 19.5 tackles for loss. They have a very good edge presence. They rank second in the conference in sacks. This front seven, I really like what they've been doing because in the past, this defense has gotten torched in all facets of the game. We'll get to their pass defense in a second, but they've been terrible on the ground and through the air, through history. This year, it's kind of different, though. They're really stepping up in the front seven. Delano Robinson, Shane Haley at linebacker. These guys are very instrumental to the success of this defense. But the big disadvantage they have here, 121st in FBS in pass defense. They struggle to cover. In those games they held Houston and Memphis to under 80 yards rushing. They gave up 400-plus passing. They lost both of them, so it didn't come with a real plus. They couldn't cover. There's not many teams that give up more big plays than they do in the back end. They get torched tremendously. They get beat downfield a lot. They're playing some real burners for the Bearcats. Plenty of depth to go around. They have some guys that they can take you downfield, and I don't think they're going to have any issues doing that. The ability to stop the run, though, I really like what they're doing in the front seven. But again, if it didn't come with any benefits in your losses, then it's kind of hard to lean on just that. But it's a big positive for them because step number one, slowing down this Bearcat offense, the Bearcat running game, because they have a very impressive offensive line. And the Bearcats are going to want to control clock in this game. So even though the theme has been it doesn't really matter if they stop the run in this game, it's going to pay off dividends. Cincinnati defense, they've only allowed 400-plus yards twice out of the last 20 games. These guys have been very instrumental. They played some high, powerful offenses last year, including SMU. Teams like Memphis, UCF, those guys could do nothing against them. They blew those guys out. They didn't blow out UCF. The other two they did. This year they've been just as good. 16.2 points per game. They've struggled a good bit against the run, though. They gave 300 yards against Tulsa. What were they, like 17 or 20-point favorites, something like that, and they struggled. They had to come up with a fourth and goal stop on that game. Malik Vann, Curtis Brooks, Mijah Sanders. No one's really having a great individual season outside of linebacker Darian Beavers in the front seven. It's kind of a collective effort on the defensive line. Mijah Sanders hasn't been as impactful as we assumed he would coming into the year. He's got great length, though. Coming off the edge, I like what they get from Malik Vann. Curtis Brooks right there at that nose tackle spot. Back to Beavers, though. He's their star playmaker at linebacker. Tyler Van Fossen, he gets involved a good bit at linebacker, too. Beavers, this guy's phenomenal. Every game they win, he's going to have a big game in doing so. He does so much for them, from coverage plays to coming off the edge or coming through the middle as a pass rusher or just a penetrator. It doesn't matter. He can do a great bit of everything. This secondary, though, these guys are just so good. Like, they've only allowed 6 touchdowns this year, the 16 picks, second in FBS. They've had exactly 16 interceptions in each of the last 3 seasons. They're going to clearly exceed that this year, because they have numerous more games left to play. 4 seniors, and Anquan Bush, he's a veteran in his own right, even though he's not a senior. Brian Cook, he's been a big-time tackler for them this year. Like what they get in coverage from him, Javon Hicks. And of course, Ahmad Gardner, this guy's incredible in press and in man coverage. That 3-3-5 they run. It's been no drop-off. Even though Marcus Freeman left for Notre Dame in the offseason, this defense has really implemented some of the same principles of Tressel as the DC. The secondary, they have a big advantage here. Specifically when they played this offense last year, they really held them in check. They know how to get it done. Overall, this defense is very good, even though they've had some struggles against the run. And the pass rush hasn't been great by any means. But the secondary does a lot of the heavy lifting, as does Darian Beavers. Looking at team comparisons, it's kind of even at quarterback. I'm going to give the edge to SMU's Tanner Mordecai. I really like what he's been doing through the air this year. I mean, it's really even, but I'll go ahead and give him the respect on this one because Ritter, he's great as a passer himself. Of course, the numbers are completely different systems as well, but very even. Ritter's actually, honestly, a better quarterback, but for the purpose of this game, I'll just give Mordecai the edge right there. Running backs, if Jerome Ford plays for Cincinnati, they definitely have the edge. I think the 1-2 punch they have with Siggers and Bentley gives the Mustangs another edge there. At pass catcher, I'll give SMU an edge there. These all three are honestly pretty even. It can go either way, so I wouldn't freak out too much. Both teams are pretty deep at receiver and running back too. So offensive line, Cincinnati, the way they run block, it's pretty impressive. The pass protection's been pretty solid as well. So they're going to get the edge there in the trenches on both sides of the ball. I like the pass rush SMU has. It's better than Cincinnati's, but overall, I think depth, presence, Cincinnati's going to get the edge there. I like Malik Vaughn, Majah Sanders. He's very capable of taking over a game. They'll get the edge there. They also get the nod at linebacker, Tyler Van Fossen. He's really good. This guy, I love the way this guy plays the game. Darian Beavers, though, is one of the nation's top linebackers. He's a perennial playmaker. Delano Robinson, though, he's really good in his own right. Beavers, though, he's kind of on another level. And then the secondary, it's a no contest there. One of the top pass defenses in the country for the Bearcats compared to the Mustangs, who have one of the worst, 16 interceptions, second nationally in college football. They also cover very well. So the Bearcats, they get the edge in all the defensive categories. Looking at keys to the game for SMU, I think you got to be efficient and effective in the passing game because I just mentioned how this secondary is pretty gnarly. It's a very good unit for the Bearcats. Held them in check last year. Of course, it was a completely different unit. Mordecai is now there. Multiple different receivers getting involved as well. But still, they got to be effective and efficient in the passing game. That's been their bread and butter all year long. They can't get held in check. I don't think their running game can carry the load if they have to. So they got to be able to complete 70% of their balls, move up and down the field with ease. That's their MO on offense. For the Bearcats, don't give them the opportunity to do that. Control the clock, run the ball. I have faith in their defense to come up with plenty of stops, but you'd rather just avoid that altogether. You don't want to be put in that position. I think the best way to beat offenses like this is completely just control the clock, run the football. It's going to be a tough matchup. I like their offensive line, though. I think they're going to do pretty well on the ground, regardless of Jerome Ford plays or not. But that is going to be a big factor in this game. I think the Bearcats are going to win 35-26. I think SMU will cover because I like what their front seven gives them. I think since he has a good matchup on the ground, but they also have it's a tough one as well. I don't think they're going to run for 400 yards or anything. I think they'll have plenty of success, but I think SMU will also have a bit of their own. So I think their defense can hang around in this game a bit. Ultimately, though, I think Desmond Ritter's going to have a big game against this lackluster pass defense. Mordecai and crew. The Mustangs won't get shut out like last year. I think they had 13 points last year. That's not going to happen this year, but I don't see them turning an elite performance by any means. I don't think it's going to be a barn burner shootout either. I think the Bearcats will control the clock a good bit. The defense will show why it's one of the nation's best, and I think they'll win this game. But SMU covers. So that's going to wrap everything up for today's episode. Make sure you like, subscribe, leave a comment who you think is going to win. See you next time.